Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. DC has released a shiny HD version of the alternate Superman trailer that they posted online. There's a couple different versions of the trailer with different footage. We finally have the other version. There's a couple big new scenes, new Easter eggs, so we'll break it all down. I've seen a lot of people also asking if Supergirl is secretly in the background of a couple trailer scenes, so I'll explain that too. Because she probably is going to be in the movie. Her movie is like the next big one that DC and James Gunn are releasing. They're literally about to start shooting it next week as of me posting this video. That's why Jason Momoa has been posting all those videos of himself with the script of the movie, because he's coming back from the DCEU into James Gunn's DCU, but as the Lobo character, not as his Aquaman. So I'll explain how that's going to work too. Some Zack Snyder's DCEU characters will come back. We've already seen several examples of it so far, but for the most part, the big Justice League actors will be recast. If you're brand new to the channel, James Gunn also said that he's already going to be dropping more Superman footage when the Super Bowl happens. Of course, I will do all the videos for whatever he winds up releasing. Be sure to subscribe to be the first to watch that. These first new scenes start with Lex Luthor, the engineer from the Authority comics, in the character in the black suit everybody's referring to as Ultraman because of the U symbol on his chest, all busting into the Fortress of Solitude to steal everything they possibly can. Lex Luthor looking like he's walking into the Arctic's hottest club. The world's hottest club this year is the Fortress of Solitude. It has everything from a Kryptonian supercomputer with a database full of advanced scientific knowledge, a phantom zone generator, alien technology you've never dreamt of from across the universe. So of course Lex Luthor would want all that for himself. The reason why the engineer is with him is because earlier in the trailer, we actually see her in the background of the Luthor Corp scene, walking on top of the building. It seems like she's working for Lex Luthor during the movie. And for those of you asking, the reason why it's a Luthor Corp instead of Lex Corp like the comics is because Luthor Corp is actually a big Smallville Easter egg. During Smallville, Luthor Corp was Lionel Luthor's company, like the family company. Lex Luthor created Lex Corp when he broke off by himself, but then came back to take over Luthor Corp, and eventually, at the very end of the series, they had another Easter egg for it turning back into Lex Corp from the comics where the sign fell down. The reason why she'd be working for him during the movie is because he's one of the world's richest people next to Batman Bruce Wayne, who we just saw during Creature Commandos for the first time. He's going to be the new DCU live-action Batman that they cast an actor for eventually, which, according to Andy Muschietti, will not be Robert Pattinson. So if you believe that Andy Muschietti is still directing Batman Brave and the Bold, then it will be a totally new actor. But in the Superman movie, the engineer is not meant to be an evil person. She's just working for the main villain of the movie. It's more of an opportunity cost, like, okay, I'll work for you even though you're doing all this crazy stuff. I think James Gunn's idea is that she'll continue as a character after the events of the movie because he said specifically they were planning on doing an Authority movie at some point with that team from the comics. During those, she eventually joins that team. They're mostly viewed as a good team, but not in the same way as the Justice League are meant to be overtly good. The Authority are a deeply cynical group of characters compared to the Justice League. I would say the Boys comics are a better example of that, the way their cynical take on superheroes just in general. They're originally from Jim Lee's Wildstorm comics when he went to Image to go do his own thing, but then when DC hired Jim Lee to come back, they also bought out his Wildstorm comics and then brought them all into the DC universe, and now we're just finally seeing them show up in DC movies with like Superman, the other big Justice League characters. I wouldn't say the Authority comics are quite as cynical as the Boys comics, but you kind of get the idea, like parody characters of big DC characters. Homelander, for instance, big parody of Superman. The Seven, big parody of the Justice League. The reason why the Boys are a little bit different is because they're parodies of both Marvel and DC things, like Tech Knight, for instance, that we just saw as a parody of Iron Man mixed with Batman. Web Weaver is a parody of Spider-Man, but they also have all these DC parodies too running around. My assumption, just based on all the footage, is that the engineer helps Lex Luthor during most of the movie. She helped him clone Superman, probably create Ultraman here, helps him steal Kryptonian technology from the Fortress of Solitude, and her main ability is controlling any type of technology. So she'd actually be able to interface with the Fortress of Solitude once they activate it to find whatever it is Lex Luthor is looking for here specifically. Although he's kind of a kid in a candy store, and the candy is alien hyper technology. Typically in the comics and in the previous movies too, like even back during the Christopher Reeve movies during Smallville, you always see versions of Lex Luthor breaking into the Fortress of Solitude, so this isn't like a new concept. If you wanted to find a way to kill Superman, this would be the best way to do it, basically use his own technology against him. But if the engineer isn't supposed to be an overtly evil character, my assumption is that she'll stop working for Lex at some point at the end of the movie, go off on her own, and then eventually join whatever authority team does form in the future of the DCU. Ultraman is here with them in the fortress for a couple reasons, probably. First, as a clone of Superman, he'd have all the same powers and strength as Superman. He's probably the reason why Superman is bleeding in the trailer, too. He'd be like the only thing on Earth next to like a big magic-based villain because Superman is weak against magic. This kaiju here barely seems like it phases him. This clone Superman is probably the only thing that's able to actually draw blood from him to this degree, like wear him out in a physical knockdown drag-out bar fight. Good old-fashioned street fight like we see them fighting in the stadium here. The reason why you probably haven't seen Superman knock his black mask and goggles off is probably because they don't want to reveal that he is a Superman clone because you'd recognize his face, like, oh man, I know that face because it looks like Superman. And they probably want that to be some big horrific reveal for Superman during the trailer where he realizes what Lex has done. This is also meant to be a spin on the original Bizarro backstory from the comics where Bizarro started as a failed Superman clone. No idea what's going to happen to him at the end of the movie. That could only end a couple different ways, and it really does seem like James Gunn doesn't want this Superman to feel like a killer. I guess you could jettison him off into the Phantom Zone or into deep space, somewhere else in the universe. There are a couple ways that Superman could deal with a clone of himself that he wants to get rid of without actually having to kill him. But the whole idea here is that Lex probably keeps him around as his personal bodyguard, one, and because he's breaking into the Fortress of Solitude, he needs him to stop Superman because Superman isn't going to want to let him steal all this stuff. And the Fortress of Solitude's systems are coded to Superman's DNA. Only he can activate it, and when he's not around, usually goes into hibernation lockdown mode like your computer powering down with a thumbprint password protection, so Lex Luthor needs that thumbprint to turn everything in the fortress on. He might also be the thing that busts up Kel-Lex, where you see Superman cradling him outside the fortress entrance here. This is probably when they bust in. They probably bust up Kel-Lex while that's happening. He's also probably the reason why Superman is bleeding in the snow here, having Krypto drag him back to the Fortress of Solitude. They probably get into a fight outside the fortress, and he probably just punches him like a mile away through the Arctic, and he just lands in the snow here at the beginning of the trailer. The other new footage here is the scene of Mr. Terrific standing up behind all these computer and tech consoles inside of what looks like a concrete building. There are a couple workers behind him, a circular hallway in the back of the room. Usually the reason why hallways like that are circular are just for more structural integrity, so this might be built into like the side of a giant landmass or something. Not clear where it's happening in the world. I don't think this is happening near the Fortress of Solitude, but it could be happening someplace outside of Metropolis. Most of the trailer footage makes it seem like Mr. Terrific is on a team with Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner, Green Lantern, and Hawkgirl, who all have similar-looking white suits and Maxwell Lord's company logo on them. So I think the gist is that they're meant to be an Easter egg for the Justice League International in the comics, which was a version of the team that Maxwell Lord helped run back in the day. James Gunn's brother Sean Gunn from the Guardians of the Galaxy movies is going to be playing that Maxwell Lord, so he won't be like Pedro Pascal's Maxwell Lord, like a completely different version of the character. But the way that James Gunn explained it, there is no Justice League when this movie is going on. They haven't formed yet, like it's not even a concept yet. So in the context of the actual movie, this team is probably just a team of superheroes sponsored by Maxwell Lord that just funds everything, like somebody needs to fund Mr. Terrific's technology. Probably also pays the team basic wages too. They also kind of got into this joke on The Boys too, where Homelander, the Seven, like all the other superheroes that are created by Compound V and Vought are sponsored by different companies. Like a bunch of athletes basically. When it comes to all the Supergirl talk that's been going on the last couple weeks, people think they spotted Supergirl as a reflection in Kel-Lex's headpiece here. Zoom and enhance 1,000 times. This doesn't look like Supergirl. Remember, I think this scene is happening when Lex Luthor tries to break into the Fortress of Solitude, and the three of them just bust up Kel-Lex when they're doing that. So there is somebody reflected in the background here of this shot. It's probably one of those three characters trying to bust in. but I do think that Millie Alcock's Supergirl is going to be in the Superman movie in some way, like a small cameo scene or some sort of reference, because her movie is like the next real big one, and Krypto is also from the comic book story that they're adapting for that movie. I don't know if he's going to be in her movie, but it would make sense that they're trying to establish her character if they first have her connect with Superman on Earth in some way at the end of his movie or during his movie at some point, and then have him cameo at the beginning of her movie before she goes off into deep space to a different planet where her movie takes place. The story they're adapting from the comics takes place in a completely different part of the universe, a completely different alien planet. It's more of a sci-fi adventure type of story. So if we see Earth during her movie, it'll probably just be very, very briefly. This is also why you've been seeing all the Jason Momoa Lobo news the past couple weeks, because James Gunn just cast him as Lobo for that movie, bringing him back from the DCEU. He has been one of the few to survive the big reboot. We've already seen the Peacemaker characters are coming back, and most of the Suicide Squad characters are also coming back too. This is still pretty early days, but don't be surprised if you see some piecemeal other actors come back just playing different characters too. Really, when it comes to recasting people, we're mostly talking about like the real big A-list characters like Superman himself from Henry Cavill, Batman from Ben Affleck, Wonder Woman from Gal Gadot. Jason Momoa is just a really good example of that because he's not coming back as Aquaman, like he's coming back as a Lobo. Personally, I think he should have been Lobo this whole time, like he was born to play Lobo. He's his favorite character since he was a little kid. He even said when Zack Snyder was casting him for Batman v Superman as Aquaman, before he knew it was Aquaman, he actually asked Zack Snyder, are all these pages that you're giving me, all this dialogue, for Lobo, just because he's such a big fan of the character? And Zack Snyder got all surprised, like, no, Lobo doesn't exist in our universe. This is for Aquaman. So I do think it's kind of funny that Jason Momoa, just looking at the pages without knowing that he was auditioning for Aquaman, thought that he had been auditioning for the Lobo character. Now cut to almost 10 years later, and he actually is playing that Lobo character. But if there's any other new footage that you spotted during the new version of the trailer that I didn't talk about in the video, write it below in the comments. James Gunn said he'd be releasing more footage around the Super Bowl, so of course I'll do more videos for that. There'll be other Super Bowl trailers too, like Marvel Super Bowl trailers. A bunch of really, really big stuff going to be happening the next couple weeks. Make sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss any of that. Everybody click here for that first look at the new DCU Batman and learn what's going on with that, and click here to learn about the brand new version of Black Panther that they're casting in the MCU. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.